All right, let's talk about something that pops up in job offers that can be both super exciting and, well, kind of confusing. Employee stock options. You've seen the term, but what does it really mean for you? Today, we're going to break it all down.
I mean, think about that for a second. This is the big promise behind what we call ESOPs, or employee stock option plans. It's this idea that you're not just getting a paycheck, you're getting a real stake in the game, a piece of the company's future. It's a way to become a part owner. But, how does that promise actually become a reality?
Okay, this is probably the most important thing to get right from the start. An ESOP is not free stock. It's the right to buy stock later on at a price that gets locked in today. So it's a right, not an obligation. Think of it like getting a special coupon for a price that never goes up, even if the company's value totally skyrockets.
Now, while we throw around the term ESOP all the time, it's kind of a catch-all for a few different ways that companies offer you a slice of the pie. And depending on where you work, that slice can look very, very different. So let's look at the three main ways this happens.
And believe me, the differences here are huge. First, you have your classic stock options, which you see a lot in Indian startups. This gives you the option to buy. Then you've got something called RSUs, or restricted stock units. Big tech firms like Google love these. Here, you're straight up promised actual shares in the future. And finally, there are SARs, or stock appreciation rights, where you just get a cash bonus that's tied to how well the stock does. No shares actually change hands. For this explainer, we're going to really dive deep into that classic stock option model.
Okay, so the company granted you options. Awesome. But now you're staring at your offer letter and seeing all this jargon. Vesting, cliff, strike price. This isn't just boring legal stuff, I promise. These words are literally the key to figuring out how much your offer is actually worth.
Let's start with vesting. Just think of it as the earning out process. The company doesn't just hand over everything on day one. Nope, you earn your options over time, just by sticking around. It's their way of making sure you're, invested in the company's long-term success.
A super common way this plays out is over 4 years. And it all starts with the most critical milestone, the 1-year cliff. You can think of the cliff as a sort of probation period for your stock. If you leave before your first anniversary, poof, you get nothing. But the moment you cross that 1-year mark, bam, a big chunk, usually 25% of your options vest. After that, you'll typically earn a little more each month till you're fully vested.
Now, while that time-based model is the most common, some companies get creative. They might tie your vesting to performance, so your options only become yours if, say, the company hits a massive revenue goal. It's definitely riskier for you because performance is never a sure thing, but the upside is often a much bigger grant of options to begin with.
And now for the magic number, the strike price, sometimes called the exercise price. This is that special, fixed price per share that you were promised way back on day one. And here's why it's so powerful. The whole point is for the company's actual value to grow so much that the real price of a share becomes way, way higher than your locked-in price.
Let's make this really simple. Imagine you joined a startup, and they set your strike price at just 50 rupees a share. Fast forward a few years, the company has crushed it. And now the fair market value of one share is 250 rupees.
And right here, this is where the magic happens. The market says a share is worth 250 rupees, but your price is still that 50 rupees you locked in. That means for every share, you have the right to pay 50 for something that's immediately worth 250. That's a 200 rupee profit per share. Now, multiply that by the thousands of options you were granted, and yeah, you can see how this creates some serious wealth.
But, and this is a huge but, you have to watch the clock. There are deadlines. A big one is the exercise window. If you leave the company, a lot of plans only give you 90 days to actually buy your vested shares. If you miss that window, they just disappear. And every single option has a final expiry date, usually 5 or 10 years down the road. It's really a case of use them or lose them.
So we've cracked the code on the language. Now let's put all those pieces together. Let's map out the entire journey, from that first promise in your offer letter to, hopefully, money in your bank.
This timeline really brings it all together. See? It kicks off with the grant date. That's when the official promise is made. Then, as time passes, you hit your vesting dates. The exercise date is all on you. That's when you decide to pull the trigger and buy the shares at your strike price. Just remember, you can only do that inside your exercise window, and you absolutely have to do it before that final expiry date.
So after all that, what's the final verdict? Are these things a guaranteed golden ticket to getting rich, or are they something else? Let's be real here. The potential is massive. For people who join a startup that becomes a huge success, ESOPs can be absolutely 100% life-changing. But the risk is just as real.
The hard truth is that most startups don't make it big, and even the ones that do might take a decade or more to go public, which is usually your first real chance to cash out.
And that brings us to what is probably the healthiest way to think about this. Treat your ESOPs like a fantastic bonus. A high upside lottery ticket, maybe. But don't let them become your entire financial plan. They should be the icing on the cake, not the whole cake itself. So what is it? A life-changing reward or a very valuable lottery ticket? You know, the answer really depends on your company's journey, but it also depends on you. Now that you know the rules, the timelines, and the risks, you're in a much better position to make the most of whatever comes your way. Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.